Hallo, hier ist Raphael Vogt von LowBeats TV und wir sind hier auf der High End 2016 und befinden uns auf dem Stand von Trinnov. Entsprechend haben wir hier ein paar Sachen zu sehen und zu hören, die wirklich faszinierend sind. Mein Gast heute ist Arnaud Destinay von Trinnov und er ist zuständig für das Marketing heute international, aber kommt aus der Technik und Entwicklung und kann uns deshalb bestimmt gleich ein paar schöne Fragen beantworten zum Thema, was macht der Trinnov-Prozessor, was andere nicht machen, oder was macht er anders, was kann er nicht, wo kommt das Ganze her. Leider spricht er nur Französisch oder Englisch, deshalb müssen wir jetzt ein bisschen auf Englisch switchen und deshalb würde ich ihn jetzt mal kurz zu Wort kommen lassen. Yeah, hello Arnaud. Thank you for giving us the opportunity to learn something about the Trinnov processing. Where is the origin of the Trinnov technology, which is quite a story?
Yes, well, thank you for having us here and for running this interview. So, yeah, briefly, Trinnov Audio was actually the result of extensive research on the field of 3D audio. So immersive sound is really where the three co-founders of the company started.
That's actually where the name comes from as well.
Yes, indeed. Trinnov actually stands for 3D innovation. It's not a Russian name, as many people have thought, and we get that actually comment very, very often. No, it's 3D innovation. So following this research, which has been acclaimed across the entire scientific community worldwide, Trinnov actually got a grant from the French Ministry of Research and in fact created the company Trinnov in 2003, 2 years after they initially started the research. Having said that, Trinnov Audio is not really known for their initial work. The company really established itself and started getting success out of room correction.
Yes. Because
to be able to really make a seamless presentation of an immersive audio system, the three founders realized that they needed to control the system in a very, very good way. That's why they started doing research in terms of room correction, which is now our second primary field of expertise. So room correction and 3D sound is really what Trinnov Audio is known for.
But the origins was 3D room analysis.
3D room analysis, so indeed there is some kind of synergy between this initial research in 3D sound and the room correction. We try to take advantage of what we found while looking for 3D audio innovation and applied some of these results into the room correction. So we cannot see here, but we could probably introduce the microphone we're using for the room correction and tell you what's special about it. So unlike typical measurement microphone, you can see that there are actual 4 measurement capsules. So we use those 4 capsules, which are arranged in a very specific way to localize the speakers and gather more information in a tridimensional manner, to gather more information about the room and about the way the speakers behave in the room. So that's one of the fundamental difference between Trinnov and other companies in regards to room correction, and also some kind of iconic figure for the company.
So with this, you cannot just measure a single point. You get, because this is like a pyramid, you get informations of where actually the sound is coming from, reaching this measurement point.
Indeed. In a similar way to how GPS localizes your cell phone, we in fact localize the loudspeaker position in the room in distance, azimuth and elevation, which gives us extra information that are really, really interesting to process and to get better results.
Yes. Yeah. If I recall correctly, you have a spherical resolution of about 2 degrees.
Plus minus 2 degrees. We could go a little bit further in precision.
Very precise indeed, to get the knowledge of what is a speaker, what is an early reflection, what is something else in the room.
Yeah, in fact, the way we gather the information about the room is not only thanks to this microphone, it's also thanks to our own algorithms and the way we process the impulse response we get out of the measurement. So in fact, we apply some proprietary analysis techniques to differentiate indeed the direct sound and early reflection from the room response by applying some time frequency analysis techniques which are our own, and once again differentiate what we do from others.
Yes.
So it's basically a combination of our own algorithm and this measurement microphone which makes Trinnov special and ensures the results we achieve here and at all the installation that included Trinnov. So following up on this, I don't know if you have other questions when it comes to...
No, it's just maybe the remark that the pictures I saw from the earliest Trinnov microphone experiments that looked quite different. There was a complex of much more microphones, and you could reduce it to these 4 compact capsules.
So yeah, the initial research on 3D sound was based on the approach of, the technology was high order ambisonic, so without going too far into the details, high order ambisonic is an end-to-end 3D audio technique. So from the recording, we capture, instead of audio signals, we capture the entire sound field. So one of the fundamental aspects of ambisonic is that the more capsule you get, the more spatial resolution you can capture and eventually reproduce. Of course, 24 capsules was the initial microphone used for research. That's practically not doable to implement this for sound recording, and not really completely relevant for acoustic measurement either.
Okay.
But yeah, we started with a 24 capsules microphone, which was kind of complex, and it did look like a really scientific experimental product, as opposed to this one, which is industrial and very well built and in decent volume.
Yeah.
The other one was simply not possible to
experimental
to bring on the market.
Okay. So from analysis comes synthesis. So what is the difference in the processing that you do? What is basically, this is not just an equalizer. The Trinnov optimizer does a lot of things, and it does it slightly differently because it does it separately compared to other room corrections, who more or less use a general correction for a zoom signal, and you're more or less separate different corrections, as far as I know from using the optimizer. So
yes, indeed. Without talking about all the technologies, it's very clear that people should not misunderstand what we're doing. It's not an automatic EQ. We don't simply analyze the frequency response and apply an inverted filter to achieve a flat response, which is not necessarily what we're looking for anyway. What we do is simply accounting for a very critical aspect of the sound properties as we place a loudspeaker in the room, which is the time domain, which is in fact even more critical than frequency. And in fact, the way the room behaves in the time domain gives you the frequency response. So that's why we have been focusing on what's happening in the time domain, how to analyze this in a relevant way, in a sensible way, what information are relevant and what can we get out of it. So the idea is, as I said, to first split the signal, the impulse response, to understand what's coming from the loudspeaker, what's going directly from the loudspeaker to the microphone. We cannot completely separate the direct sound from the early reflections because they are mixed together in a room. We would need to be in an anechoic chamber or in free field to be able to separate them completely. So acknowledging for this fact, we simply analyze them together and compare them to the response of the room itself to figure out the defect and the source of the defect we find. Is a defect like a deep at 50 Hertz coming from the speaker itself? Might it be that the speaker is damaged, the crossover not properly implemented? Or is it the room and reflections introducing such problems? So by being able to understand what's happening, we can apply the relevant corrections, not to harm the reproduction quality, but to improve it in a sensible way. So that's essentially what we're doing, without going into too much details once again.
Yes. What I like is that compared to many systems, you apply each parameter at the lowest necessary correction and not a general overall manipulation of the signal. So every correction is as little as possible to get the same or the best end result.
Yes, because our philosophy, and we've always been loyal to what we say from the very beginning. Here you see that in this room we have implemented acoustic panels, simply to remind people that room correction is not an answer to all problems. There are problems you can fix with acoustic treatment, but some others you can't. So in fact, active loudspeaker room optimization is completely complementary to acoustic treatment.
Yes,
let's say in
need both to have a good sound.
Yes, so the best approach and the most sensible approach is to implement both of them if possible. So in 2005, when we introduced the first loudspeaker room optimization processor for pro application in the first place, we were obviously facing more environment with acoustic panels and with acoustic treatment. So that means that those people in the pro market really understand that acoustic treatment eventually is not enough, and that there is still some room for improvement applying such kind of technology. It's all a matter then of how to implement it in a sensible way with the right amount of correction to achieve balanced result without damaging the natural quality of sound and the natural response of the speaker, without basically understanding what's happening in the room, rather than applying strong correction without really understanding what that implies.
Yes, and that the correction is quite high in quality. We could see the other day visiting
MSM Studio.
The MSM Studio, and this is one of the highest acclaimed mastering facilities for multi-channel audio, and was
also for stereo.
Also for stereo, but
I think we hear a lot of songs and tracks here that have actually gone through MSM Studio. So that's why we thought it was a relevant event, because it's really
yes, but this 3D audio mastering suite is one of the best in the world, and it's using the Trinnov altitude.
Yeah.
And so they are mastering, including a setup using the Trinnov optimizer. So this is doing things right. This is not a signal manipulation of any kind. It's compensating for the mishaps that speakers in room and the interaction between these two are working on, and with the optimizer you really get a better result and a clearer presentation, and you get more from to your ear from what you're actually doing in the mixing console.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So in fact, when it comes to loudspeaker room optimization in terms of company profile and DNA, we are proud to have this background and to have actually achieved good results in studio, and to have one of the top engineers worldwide producing some of the best recordings of some of the best movie soundtracks, acclaiming our technology. We think it brings huge credibility to the company and to our technology, and that's what we want to show here on such a trade show. Yeah.
That's basically it, I think.
Yeah. So just to follow up on the altitude, if you may.
Absolutely.
So we introduced the altitude at the ISC 2014 and at CEDIA 2014. Sorry, at the time where Dolby Atmos for the home was introduced to the market. Obviously, having a background in 3D audio, we thought, that could be interesting to be part of it. So we did. We contacted Dolby and the other immersive format suppliers and started working with them with one of our exclusive technologies. One of them is the fact that we've been using PC for processing instead of DSP since the very beginning.
Yes.
So it allows us great flexibility in terms of implementation, but also higher resolution of the processing, which is also part of the result we're getting.
At least before other guys can buy their chips doing the same.
Exactly. So we had great response from the home cinema and custom installation market with the Altitude, which is, I believe, now perceived as the undisputed leader on the market and the most capable processors available today. We have had some customers using it for their stereo setup, but still a majority of music enthusiasts have been looking at this processor because they want to build their home cinema system around their high-end stereo system. And they're wondering, is this processor good enough for music? Because there is this perception that it might, be not good enough because home cinema is seen as lower quality. So the reason of our presence here and the reason why we decided to use the Altitude in this setup was to show people that it can indeed perform at a very, very high level also for music. And a place like engineers working at MSM Studio would not argue about this, that's for sure.
No, they won't.
Yeah. So also with room correction, we also have our own active crossovers kind of approach that we have been implementing here. So the vivid audio speakers that we have here allow us to bypass the passive filters. So all the active crossovers are actually handled in the processor. So 4-way, we have 8 channels coming out of the processor to drive those speakers in a fully active way.
Yes.
So it's really being used as a multi-purpose device. It's the source because we use its built-in streamer. It's the preamp. It is the active crossovers, 4-way, complying with the manufacturer's requirement. So we actually set up the system with him, and he was very satisfied with the result.
Of course, this streaming can be multi-channel.
Not yet.
Not yet. Okay.
We did a quadraphonic demonstration a few years ago, so that works. But above that, we haven't really experimented because Blu-ray and movie servers are still the standard on the home cinema side. But yeah, then loudspeaker room optimization, that is obviously used on this system, and more importantly to those people who want to hear the quality of our converters, which are our own design. So we're using the DAC of the Altitude on the system, 8 of them, since we have 8 dedicated outputs to address drivers individually.
Yes.
So yeah, we're not showing the full capability of the processor, just its versatility.
Yes.
It's not only the best as doing 3D audio with Dolby Atmos, DTS:X, and Auro 3D. It's also a very capable processor for stereo.
And it's a scalable system from 8 channels to up to
32. Yeah.
That's a lot.
That's a lot indeed.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank you very much, Arnaud.
Thank you.
And have a good show.
Thanks.
Vielen Dank fürs Zuhören und bis zum nächsten Mal.